time to strap in and get ready. The leaders in AFL SuperCoach are incoming, helping you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight AFL Show with your hosts, Big Horse and Skitty.
Good evening and welcome to the Insight AFL Show. I'm your host, The Horse, and with me tonight for his round 11 team, Richie Ben. I'll be pretty proud of your score last week. We got a 2 for 2. Tells, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. That's about the only thing that was good about last week, that it was so symmetrical that we got all the twos. So everything else is pretty shit house, but that's okay. It's also 2 weeks in a row, so maybe two's the number that I need to just get away from and get into something else.
It's unreal with, especially last week, what happened with some dead set Primos, your Merritts, your Butters, and the like, who are scoring 50s and 60s and 70s, and Holmes even, and then you've got the whenever he decides to turn up, Jordan Dawson going 130, and it's really been a yo-yo season, hasn't it?
It has. It's one like I've never experienced before. I'm loving it. It makes for an interesting sort of week every week. Who am I trading? What am I doing? How am I keeping up with the pack? And how am I gonna make the ground that I need to make? And so I think it's awesome that we've got these dilemmas. No cash gen. The best two midfielders didn't play for the first 5 weeks, and now this week, probably for the first time this year, we're faced with injury carnage. So there's just so many different variables.
There is a lot going on this week, isn't there? You got your injury crisis with your Wanganeen Malera, who's a test to play this week, and he's no certainty to play. You've got your McRae's with a punctured lung, and we understand that he's going to be out till round 14. So do you hold or do you sell? And then you've got Pickles, Jason Horne-Francis, for those of you that don't know who he is. He's got a 4-week hammy as well. But then there's others as well with injury news, like McGovern now. He may not even return this year. So, Benny G.
Big news today about that. You don't want to see anyone have concussion issues, but to say maybe that he might, if he doesn't return this year, you think that's it, right? It's not just this year. He's done if he doesn't return.
Reading between the lines, and we don't want to assume what's going on in anyone's personal life or in their career or how they're standing, but you would think if there's, especially with the heightened, I guess, emphasis on concussions and what have you these days, and that he's got the lingering effects and he hasn't been able to pass concussion protocols from 2 weeks ago, and now the doctors have said that this has been going on for a couple of weeks now, and it's as a result of previous concussions as well. I think he's fighting an uphill battle.
Battle. Yeah, I think so. And look, you do also think, life after footy has to come into the equation when Gov's no spring chicken. He's getting on a bit. You have to think about your own ability to live and your family and all that when you get some serious sort of medical kind of advice like that. So it's bigger than footy sometimes. And often we muck around and we say, how's this bloke getting X amount of dollars and all of that? But most of these guys are getting every penny they deserve, right? Because they're putting their bodies on the line, and they now have to walk away from footy, and a lot of them are having some head troubles, and it's not ideal.
Yep. I agree. Ripper bloke, good footballer, premiership player with West Coast. But I think you're right. Sometimes we've just got to put footy aside and go, well, what's going to be the best for this person long term? And if the concussion stuff is going to have an effect on his life after footy, then no one would blame him for pulling the pin now. And then if you're going to call someone like that soft and what have you, then you need to have a good hard look at yourself, because this isn't 20 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're faced with now, and especially with the ever-growing emphasis on mental health and well-being as well. I think we've got to look after ourselves, and being the toughest bloke on the footy field, yeah, it's a nice title to have when you're running through blokes for fun, and your Zach Butters who eats glass for fun and would run through brick walls on a day off sort of thing. It's not like that anymore, and it's not about being soft. It's about looking after yourself. So that's just what it is. A few comments coming through in the chat. I am highlighting them, so we will get to them at the end. Did you want to start off with your team value, mate, and how you're standing overall?
Yeah, pretty ordinary. I had a quick look today at some of the good teams, and I'm falling way behind. Like, there's some 13.6s, 13.8s, 13.9s even up the top. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. And one of them is I'm losing some mega cash out of some Primos. The reason I've scored last week, the reason I've scored so poorly in the last 2 weeks, I mean, it's a combination of things, but it's not just the rookies. It's my Primos like Merritt getting 65 and now has a break even at 200 and is going to leak cash, and you got Dacos coming down in cash. So the team value isn't always just about have I got cash gen for upgrades. It's about what your Primos are doing too, and I think that's significantly hurting my team. The other thing to note was really interesting. Like a couple of the teams, I think. I looked at teams 1 through 5. None of them had more than 3 rooks on field, and I've still got 5. That's obvious that I'm well behind there. And this is the hard part when you have plans, and I have a plan. I've written some articles about a plan, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have like the injuries, like last week, my trades were TDK to Sherry. Now that's a good upgrade. I'm wrapped that I've got Sherry, and he got 150 for me as captain. But it meant that your Primos aren't changing. You're still playing the same amount of rookies on field. And so when you're doing that, and then probably what's going to happen for most people this week is the same. We're going to have to go sideways from some injuries. And so just those that are already ahead are going to keep staying ahead because they've got less rookies to worry about.
100%, mate. So we see that you're sitting just inside the top 7,000, and Scorched Earth has just said, who's that young, handsome man at the bottom of the sky? Oh, it's me. No, we'll change that.
I did go. I don't know about young or handsome, but I did go and have a bit of a haircut, and I finally had it shaved for one of these episodes. I'm not looking like a scruff, so that's all that is.
No, that's all right, mate. So how's the backline looking?
Backline is going to look a lot better this week after I make the upgrade of Sinclair. Still carrying the 2 rookies in the backline. I think what will end up happening here is Sinclair will come in this week for me. No matter which trades I look at, he's going to be the in. And then I don't know who's going to be left on the field out of Bice and Trainer, or if either of them are, depending on how I structure up other things. But Bice has to go this week or next. It just depends on whether I hold someone like McRae. So the backline's okay. I think I've got 4 of the blokes after this week's trades. I've got 4 of the blokes I want. And then the other 2, you never know. Maybe even end up Coleman and Mills for a little while. To sort of tide me over for a little while and make some cash. So that's probably where that will sit.
Well, both of them were in a lot of our teams, weren't they, to start the year? And then with injury and what have you, we were forced to remove them. But they're all of a sudden coming at a real opportune time where I'll use Coleman, for example. I won't go him this week. I'd love to see another full game out of him before I downgrade into him next week. But for me and yourself as well, that could be a Luke Trainer sideways straight into a Kitty Coleman who could put you out of hundreds, or you could go Miami Bice into Kitty Coleman and save 100K.
Yeah, I think that's sort of where my head's at. So I'm considering going Coleman this week. I don't know if I will. I'm certainly not going to go Mills early when he's back. I've said that plenty of times in our Patreon that I want to see 2 games out of Mills for sure before I go there. Sure. But what I'm half thinking is my backline might, and this will depend on Roberts. If Roberts continues at that 80s for a little while, he might become Mills when Mills comes back. And then my backline, if you throw Sinclair in that D4 slot, Roberts is in, and then you think Mills and Coleman in D5, D6, that might be the backline. Or if Roberts looks like he can hold, which I hope he does for my sake and for many others' sake who have still got him, then I could swing a Sheasel or a Sinclair into the middle and still go with those other two at D5 and 6. So that's probably my options in that back line for the next 3 or 4 weeks, I reckon.
Yeah, I love it. So with Mills, I just did a little bit of research, mate, and since the start of the 2023 season, he has 6 SuperCoach tons.
Yeah.
And that's it. So when you're talking about someone that's missed through injury quite a lot, he had a bit of a run at the back end of last year. I did forget about that in a previous episode that we've done together. He still didn't score 100 last year. So his last 100 was in 2023. And that gives me no confidence in going on someone like that early. I understand that it has been spoken about in social media and what have you, but if we're giving Coleman 2 games to have a bit of a look and we can see that there's a role there, then why wouldn't you do the same for Mills?
100%. And I think the thing with Mills, and I didn't pick him up last year when he came back, and a lot did, because it didn't trust the role. And Mills, even when he was flying a few years back, and he got some big 160s, and I think he even got a 200 once, he was thrown all over the place. He was midfield 1 week, and then they'd put him in the back line to plug some holes. The one thing that does give me a little bit of, I guess, confidence that this year might be okay, one, the price we're going to pay and what we want him for. For me, he's probably going to be a cash generator or a D7, not someone I need hundreds from. But 2, I think the other thing might be Sydney are not travelling that well, and do they then need him in the middle? And maybe that's sort of where they'll go. I don't know, but I want to see it. I want to see his role before I make up my mind on that. It's just something in the back of my mind, not certainly set in stone.
What are you thinking about Matt Roberts? I think he's necessary to keep at the. This is my opinion. You might have a different opinion, but looking at your backline there are already 2, potentially 3 players there that you're trading at before you're even touching Roberts.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's dependent on what your team looks like, what it's doing. Like for me, I'm not touching Roberts yet, but I have an eye on what his cash gen's doing. So he's going to lose 20K this week if he gets a 72. But I think he's shown that he's capable of getting 100. So with a 121, if he got 100, I haven't done the maths on this, but it might only be a $10,000 loss, not a $20,000 loss. And if he did get 100, that would sort of reset it. And these prices at the 460 mark, they can sort of hover between 450 and 500 pretty comfortably. We saw it with Callahan, we saw it with Chera, we saw it with others that have been in this sort of range, that as long as they don't completely suck and get 60s, if they can get 100, then an 80, then 100, then an 80, they stay around this price. So as long as he's not leaking bulk cash, I don't think I'm going to move him yet because I've got too many other things to worry about.
100%. And on your bench, hopefully Allen's back this week with who's out? Howie's is out. Cripps is out.
Yeah,
There's someone else that's already been nominated. Yeah, they're in some trouble there.
Yeah. And whether he does or doesn't, I don't know. I mean, ideally, I'd love him to make 80, 100 grand in the next 5 weeks so that when I do my last upgrades, he's got some cash to burn, but I don't know if I'm going to get that out of him or not. He's been a good loop, but that's about it. That's all he's been good for me this year.
Yeah, spot on. We're going to move on to your midfield, and the midfield is going to be brought to you by Bradley Construction, structural steel and metalworks in and around Melbourne. Need a hand with any sort of site work, structural or steel work? Then hit up Bradley Constructions. Midfielders.
New sponsor, Hawks. Love it. Great work, Bradley.
There's a few that are out there that want a bit of a shout out on the pod. So, you know what? If they're football followers and they want to get their name out there and we can promote their business, then let's get around it. Let's help the guys out at home. Yep.
Love it. Beautiful.
So Brayshaw had an unusually quieter week, but still, if you're having a shit week and you're scoring 99, that's got to fill you full of confidence for when he does go pop.
Oh, absolutely. And he had a great second half. His first half was ugly. It was 31 at half time, looking in all sorts. So he recovered that well. Unfortunately for me, Zachy Merritt had his worst game for, I can't remember, years. I can't remember him being that poor for a long time. So hopefully he has a bounce back this week against the Tigers. Lockie Neal did well because he got tagged by Oliver for at least a half, and he still pumped out 100. Dacos has been poor since I bought him. This has been the story of my season so far, and I often, I do a lot of reflecting on what moves have I made, have they worked, are they not working, and I can honestly say that my biggest issue this year, if you remember 2 weeks ago, I got two 2500s in a row, and I was up to about 1700th in the rankings.
Yep.
My cadence has been fine. My theory has been fine. But in practice, the blokes I bought in Merritt, in Dacos, and these have just had really crappy scores now a couple of weeks in a row. That's really killing me. So my cadence isn't quick enough, which is one part of it. And the rookies, I'm relying on one or two too many rookies. And the second part being these guys, I'm paying $600K for them to get 120 plus, and they're getting 65s and 95s.
For sure. So you got your Zach Merritt. He's been up and down since you got him in as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I said it when I bought him in. I don't love buying Essendon players, especially the Primos. I like watching Essendon games without the worry of SuperCoach. And when you're getting pantsed by 90 points last week and your SuperCoach unique pod Premo isn't getting a touch, it's not very good viewing, Horse.
No, it's not. It's not. But they do play the Tigers this week. He does have a break even of 200. So I think he's going to drop a fair bit of cash and may be available at your 500Ks for those that were patient and still want to go with him at the back end of the year.
It's actually worth shouting out. Like, I mean, this week isn't the week to do this because most of us have at least one injury, if not more. This is the kind of player that with a 200 break even and the matchup you'd hold him for Richmond anyway. But if we have struggles with cash gen in 2 or 3 weeks, we might have to look at some of these. Which Primos have huge break evens? Could we go down and save some money to do an upgrade elsewhere and sort of just shuffle some Primos around? I mean, we're not at that dire stage yet, but our cash gen isn't looking great, and who knows where it will be in a month.
It's not spot on, mate. Looking at your midfield, mate, you got Brayshaw that's been the constant, and then you've had the ride of Merritt, Neal, who's starting to come good now, Dacos, Petrarca has been fairly solid too, Warner. So in years gone by, you wouldn't say that Merritt and Dacos are roller coaster rides, but they've been tough watches this year, haven't they?
They have been, and I only bought Warner in 2 weeks ago. He's been pretty good. I think he got 98 and then 126.
That's right.
Versus Merritt, who's been a real roller coaster. Dacos has been a real roller coaster. I bought him in after he got the 170, so I didn't get the luxury of that week. So, yeah, it's just been one of those years that the combinations of these Primos has meant people are getting either 150 more than what I'm getting or getting what I'm getting. And there'll be other people in the same boat as me, and there'll be others that look at their combinations and go, oh, I've got the Callahan Chera who got 140, 110 versus Dacos Merritt who got 150. So, yeah, you line those names up. You take Dacos and Merritt on paper, but Callahan Chera outscored them by 110 last week. So that's really interesting.
We have to go back to Dacos's debut season for him to score under 104 games in a row. He hasn't done it since. You would think that he would bounce back this week, but let's see how we go. Maybe he does need a bit of a break, having managed some. He hasn't got any real injuries, has he? But he's got North, but he has been sore. North haven't really been running with the tagger either. Like they've done it with Will Phillips in the past, but
no. But their midfielders aren't really conceding the really bulk points either, though. So it'd be interesting. Hopefully he can bounce back.
Christian Petrarca, Chad Warner, you got on the cheap and they're doing their job well. Levi Ashcroft and Xavier Lindsay are your two rookies that you're fielding. Don't mind both of them, mate. If I had my time again, I probably would have held Levi Ashcroft. I sold him probably a month ago, I want to say. But, yeah, they're two solid rookies that you got on field. And then you've got the bench of Kako, who's slowly making a couple of dollars here and there, the pencil, Hustwaite, and the box, who is my tip to come in for Jack McRae this week.
Yeah, I hope he does. We need him, or I need him because I've already got him. I mean, he's actually, I don't know, his time on ground wasn't very high. He's not going to make a lot of cash, but if he can play the 2 weeks that McRae's out, at least it might be an option. I mean, Would you recommend people out there bring him in though if he was in horse on the bubble at 113k?
No,
probably not. Would you?
no. There's one dead set rookie that we're going to jump into later in this episode that I think people absolutely need to get on board with.
Yeah.
Who out of those, your Ashcroft and Lindsay, are they now staying with you until the bye?
My plan is to keep Ashcroft as long as possible, but again, this is depending on upgrade cadence and how much money you've got to upgrade around players. Like Lindsay now has a good break even. I can't remember what it is. Let me have a quick look. 34. So he's definitely not going yet because he's still got cash to make. Ashcroft is now getting towards his break even. The 86 is getting up there, but I am not going to use him because I have, as most people can see, I've got 5 rookies on the field. Depending on what I do this week, that either becomes 4, or if I do a sideways, it stays 5. I need him for his scoring rather than worrying if he's going to fluctuate a bit in cash. And then I think towards the last 1 or 2 upgrades, that's when I'll think about Ashcroft going.
Yeah, smart. Personally,
with the round 16 bye as well, it gives you cover all the way through. So that's my plan for Ashcroft. But as I said, that's easy for me to say. Well, I've got Bice to go, Trainer to go, Cleary to go, Hewitt to go. So there's 4 trades that I know they're going to go first, right? But after that, then I have to consider what do I do next, and maybe that's when Levi is under the pump a bit.
Something we didn't bring up while we're talking about rookies is Luke Trainer against Essendon this week as well. I think it could be a good shout for those to keep him. I know he's got a break even of 71. But Essendon usually give up some points to halfback flanks or halfbacks from opposition clubs. So I'd be probably entitled, if you are looking to move off a rookie, I'd be shouting out your Elijah Hewitts and your Caden Clearys before you're moving on Trainer this week.
Yeah. I'll show you one of my trade plans when we get to that bit.
Yep.
And one of them is a really flexible trade arrangement where I'm going to watch Trainer on Friday night before I decide what my other trade is. And so I show people what I'm doing around that. And it's just something because of the fixture, and it allows me to do it. I can sort of do something a bit creative with that second trade if I put Trainer with the E in the back line. Spot on.
So let's move into your rucks. There's your set and forget. You've got Gawn, you've got Cherry. Happy days now. That score that Gawn's apparently going to get this week, something's broken.
Yeah, I wish, to be honest, not that it's a huge issue, but I would love to see the SuperCoach Gold just do averages for the projections, just so that we can work out what the real average score has been for, and Max would still be 135 or something for the year, or whatever he is, 130. So it's still high, but I'd rather that than this 180 where all of our projections look great. We sit there with, we're going to get 2,500 this week. It's just deflating when we end up with 2,200. I mean, it's first world problems, I know, but I think it'll be easier to put averages rather than, I don't know how they make up that he's going to get 180 against Grundy. Didn't Grundy smash him last year?
Yep.
Anyway, there's my rant for the week.
He does have a previous high score of 198 against Sydney. His average against Sydney it's only 108.6. I don't know how they would have come up with 181.
No idea.
Anyway, it makes my projected score look really good, so I'll just leave the C on it, and fuck.
I should whack the C on there so that it looks better, shouldn't I? And go, look at this, 2495, but it's got right. But anyway.
Now,
but that's set and forget for sure in the ruck.
Yep. With your forward line, Bailey Smith, there's some news today that he wasn't seen out on the track. Don't stress, ladies and gentlemen. He had a day inside. He was on a modified program. I wouldn't say it's a fairy tale, but nor are the stars aligning. But Thursday night footy, the only game on, Western Bulldogs versus Geelong. People saying a bit in the media about, he's going to miss. He's going to be too chicken shit to front up. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing this game. It's not just about Bailey Smith versus the Western Bulldogs. I think this is generally going to be a cracker game.
I think it should be. I think Bailey Smith doesn't strike me as the type that would be scared of anything. He'd just love the attention. So I think what Geelong will be hoping is that Bulldogs are focused on Smith and doing stupid stuff, and they can have their focus elsewhere, because this should be a really good game. A team in red hot form in the Dogs, and a team who are just really well coached and well structured and play that Alphabet Stadium well. So it should be a cracker.
100%. Dogs don't tag either. So
No.
Bailey Smith, hopefully you got a big one in you this week. Isaac Rankin, their West Coast midfielder. We're only talking about it in our WhatsApp chat, in our Patreon, half an hour before we came on air. West Coast without McGovern, Thilthorpe against Sandy Brock, the small forwards like Rankin and Rochelle, who do not pass the ball within 50 metres of goal. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to have field days here.
It could be one of those ugly games. Like Adelaide are the type of team that if they get on a bit of a roll, they could break West Coast spirit really early. West Coast were up this week. They won. They had the whole Adam Selwood kind of emotion behind the win as well, not just the win itself, but the emotional aspect of that. Now they've got to travel. They come up against a team who, if they early, will tell us if West Coast fall behind early, it could be one of those real ugly ones, I reckon.
I think you're right. Yep. Jack McRae, you've still got there for now. He is out until we think round 14 anyway.
Yep.
Now, you don't have Pickles, nor do you have Callahan. So let's chat this through, mate.
Yep.
What's your thought process? Because we know that it's best 22. So one player with what you've got on the field is going to drop out of your score regardless. So you could take a risk on, say, Simpson, who we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah, we just simply go like for this week, we can just, let's say before trades, we can simply do that. Actually, let me show you the trades that would look like if I keep McRae, because it's one option. So my trades, if I keep McRae, will be Bice out and it'll be Hewitt out, and I'll be bringing in Jack Sinclair and then a rookie. And this will be dependent on team sheets. Obviously, there's two rookies that I have in the back of my mind here. Thomas Sims is one, and people might go, what the hell? Why Thomas Sims? The reason that I might think about Thomas Sims if I go down this path is, except for McRae, who is back in a couple of weeks, I don't have dead rookies in the forward line. So it's one line I think I could carry a dead rookie if it turns that way. But Sims probably plays every week and is just a 40-point scorer for Richmond. So that's one option. The other one out there that I spoke about in our chat earlier today is if this guy gets named, James
He's been
Lee,
getting monster numbers in the VFL.
Monster scores in the VFL. Callahan out for 4 or so weeks. Still no Josh Kelly. I don't know if they're going to pick him, so I don't know if this is. It's not. I'm not saying this is locked in, but if team sheets tomorrow night or whenever they come out Thursday night say James Leake in, Finn Callahan out, and that was the only move, I think this would be the move I would make.
Spicy.
So if I did that, what I would then be carrying this week is, you still got one rookie there. I have to play Leake. I've got those two are playing either way, and I'm playing Trent. So I'm playing 5 rookies if I went that way. But it becomes 4 once McRae's available, right? So my cadence still works and it still go up. So that's one thing I'm thinking about, because I only have one issue, injury issue. I've got lots of issues, but I've only got one injury issue. So I could hold McRae. Next week we go to best 18, and I've been doing a lot of planning, and my round 12 planning means I'm in really good shape for next week. I've only got Sheasel, Sherry, Kennedy, and Daniel. So that's going to be on the good end of most people's round 12 primos. So it just means I add an extra one where everyone else probably has more than me anyway. And then he had his bye, which was no different. He was going to be out round 13 anyway, and then he's back for round 14. So there's a really good case for me to hold him.
For sure.
The only thing in the back of my mind, sorry, boss, the only thing in the back of my mind for why I might not hold him is because I've set myself up strategically to want to have a really good round 12. If I trade him, it means I keep that extra rookie off the field again, and I'm ahead again. And those that now hold McRae and hold a Pickles or hold a Callahan because of best 18, I get that one rookie off the field up on them that I was behind. So that's maybe my other school of thought. So that's probably what I have to weigh up in the next few days.
Matt Kennedy is a pod pick that you bought in a couple of weeks ago, mate.
Yep.
You made a couple of comments about the Bont tax and that he loses points to Bont. How have you found the pick now that you own him? Because watching someone when you're not an owner versus watching someone when you are an owner, it's two totally separate experiences.
I tell you what, we spoke about this on our review show on Sunday about Max Holmes. Kennedy passes the eye test. He looks fantastic. But when I look at his SuperCoach scores, and now I'm looking at him more closely because he's in my team, his 2 weeks that I've had him, he's got a 97, I think it was. Was it a 97 or 98? 97, and he kicked 3 goals and played really well. And this week he had 30 touches, kicked a goal, and got an 87. So the eye test and the SuperCoach numbers just don't marry up. I'm jokingly saying he's paying the Bont tax because all the points go to Bont instead of him. But it is frustrating me. So, yeah, it is different when you don't own them to when you do. And when you're picking someone at 0.4% of the top 1% ownership at the week I did pick him up, 87 and 97 are not cutting it, right? So that's frustrating me. But I'm not doing anything about it. He's fine, but I am frustrated that they both weren't 110 and 100.
Yeah. And Cheese, categorically, everyone did go well against Essendon.
Absolutely. And usually does.
Yeah. Yeah, they smashed us last week.
What about your McRae? What about you with McRae, Horse? I've rambled on a bit about what I might be doing.
So I'm still in two minds. So when we talk about McRae, so round 14 is when he's back, and I, like you, I've set myself up quite well for the buys, or for that round 12 buy where I've only got Sheasel, Bontempelli, Cherry, and Daniel. So I've only got the 4 through that buy. So I'm thinking it may be sideways-ish to Sinclair because I don't have Sinclair yet.
Yep.
And then down a Cleary into a Simpson because I haven't picked up Simpson, and then happy days. And then next week, Trainer might become Coleman, and then I'll look to go about it that way. So, yeah, I'm not too sure, but
so what about? Because how many of Callaghan, Pickles, and McRae have you got?
One.
So you're in the same boat as me. We're making a decision based on probably what is best case scenario this week. We've only got one to worry about. What about if somebody's got 2 of them? Let's not go to the extreme where there will be some out there that got 3. And I think if you've got 3, it is a no-brainer that McRae is the one of the 3 that you hold. So let's park that example because I think that one's easy to decide. But if you've got 2 of them, what do you do then?
I would trade Pickles first. Yeah. And the reason for that is Port Adelaide, I feel like GWS are going to go on a run sooner rather than later. They're too good to be playing this mediocre. So when Callaghan comes back, his role is that running midfielder. We know that. When Pickles comes back, he's going to be short of a run. So where are they going to play him?
Yeah, maybe forward a bit.
Forward. Yeah.
I think it does depend on your team structure too, though, doesn't it? Like if you look at people's midfields. Even the top couple of teams that I looked at today, their midfield bench is disgusting. Like if you got
have a look at
Callaghan,
this. The person who's number 1 ranked overall has all 3.
Yeah, I did see that today. That's right, Frankie. And I think there will be a lot of people in that boat too. I think so. And so if you do have all 3, I think you do have to hold probably McRae unless you got a boost and punt the other 2. If you got 2 of them, you probably got a decision to make.
Yeah, you do.
Like if you got 1. And maybe it's just your structure. Have you got anyone to cover your midfield if you put Callaghan on the bench for a month? And what does your buy? Look at the buys come into it. Like, what's your buy structure look like? Which lines are you missing the most players from? There's got to be a lot that you do some planning on, and it will be really team dependent as which way you go.
Spot on. Ryan Marrick in your forward line, F4. He is playing like almost like a keeper, mate.
Yeah, he's the least of my problems at the minute. He'll sit there until he proves that he's not capable of scoring 85 plus a week. I think the other thing to really consider in our forward lines, and this week was probably his opportunity to suck, really, because they won. There wasn't as much ball down there for the Seagulls. And he still got 85, was it, or something like that? So I think if that's his floor in a forward line where F6 is going to be about 100, current F6 is averaging 100, why would you move him? He just stays there.
Yep. Spot on. Caleb Daniel, the 5-foot Mirage, mediocre Mirage, midget, whatever you want to call him, little helmet. Oh, little people, sorry. What do you do? He was near on a trade-out target last week before our man Squiddy bestowed upon us that Sheasel was going into the midfield and that Daniel was back to half-back, and he scored 97 last week. So, one, it's restarted his cash gen, but two, does this now make him a viable F6, F7 option again?
I think this he somehow, and I wrote about this in the Buy, Hold, Sell article this week, he's somehow now bought some time and he's not a problem this week for us, even though I was very tempted to trade him out last week. He's probably, you just hold him now for this week and see what happens. Collingwood are usually okay against, the defender designated kickers. He doesn't have Sheasel there, or he didn't have Sheasel there last week. So if that holds, you're probably not going to move him. West Coast Freo to come aren't bad for designated kickers either after his bye. So, you probably can hold him for a few weeks at least now to just see. We know that if Sheasel goes back there, he's crap, right? But it's one of those things, because I've got Sheasel as well, and he only got 77 this week. You can't make decisions now on 1 week of data. You got to just hold and hope that it holds, I think.
And
maybe next week on his buy. Maybe next week on his buy, if you did want to punt him and you need $400,000 player to use to get to punt or something, maybe that's where I'll think about it.
Yep. Froggy, you're probably right. It probably is deadly running around in a helmet, mate, the way he played last week. So, Cooper Simpson is your F6. You've got McRae sitting on your bench at the moment and Caden Cleary.
Yeah.
I
went early on Simpson. I went early on him last week.
He's definitely passed the eye test, hasn't he?
Yeah. He's what I did last week was I made the decision Saturday morning. I didn't trust that Al Hawley could get 4 games.
Non-sub-affected games.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Non-sub-affected games. So even though there was a big chance that he would be not sub last Saturday, I thought, I'm going to go Simpson, who I really like the look of, played back flank. So DPP will come in round 12 if he plays the full game again this week, because you have to play 3 to qualify. So as long as he plays the full game this week and he plays on the back flank again, he'll get the DPP in round 12. And so I just thought I'm going to take a punt on him because I think there's as much uncertainty about Al Hawley as there is with him. So I went early on that. And look, I got it right for the wrong reasons. Al Hawley should have never been subbed off, but anyway, he was.
So Cooper Simpson, I did some digging, mate, and Cooper Simpson has actually been transferred in the waffle to the halfback flank and playing this very specific role. So for those that think that his role's not safe and what have you, I'm actually going to disagree with you. I think his role is very safe at Freo at the moment. And put it this way, the number that he wears is number 29. There's only one bloke in Freo's history that's worn the 29, and that's Matthew Pavlich. For Pav to give his number to someone like Cooper Simpson, who could have potentially been a sometimes ones but mostly twos player, or whether they see a future in him being a halfback flanker, and not just that, but a prominent player for years with the Freo Footy Club, they're not going to drop him. They're going to play him and they're going to get game time into him, and he's going to turn into that running halfback that we want to see. So for those that are concerned with Cooper Simpson's job security, I say don't be. And if it falls flat, come back and take the piss out of Horse. But I thoroughly think that his job security is as safe as Xavier Lindsay or as safe as Levi Ashcroft.
Yeah, I think his short-term job security is fine. Like, and look, that's all we're going on, really, right? We're hoping that we get 4 weeks out of these guys that are on the bubble, and if you can get 4 weeks out of them, you're on the way. I personally agree with you. I think he's probably okay. I think when you look at that Freo side, there's a few that might be in a little bit more jeopardy before him. But
Mhm.
who knows? We know that all these rookies have vest candidates written all over them, so it is a risk. But anyway, I think here's a question that I'll pose to you, Horse. If you haven't got a boost left, you've only got 2 trades this week, and you've got at least 1 injury to deal with, and I think most people have at least that, or even some people have 2 or 3 injuries. Do you still prioritize bringing Cooper Simpson in because he's on the bubble and looks one of the very few rookies that we've seen in the last 3 or 4 weeks that might be a good option? Or do you go, nah, I'm going 2 sideways, say like a Pickles and a McRae to a Bolton and a Sinclair, just to pluck some names out of thin air? Do you go the two sideways, or do you go, nah, stuff it, I'm taking this guy while he's on the table and I'll do another upgrade next week?
Very good question. I think it's important that you have foresight into what you're doing with your trades in 2 or 3 weeks' time. So if you end up going sideways, that's all well and good, but where else is the cash generation going to be coming from? So when you look at your side, for example, you've got cash coming out of Cleary, kind of. You've got cash coming out of Kako. You got cash coming out of Lindsay, Ashcroft. Then we're hoping Boxall gets named with McRae out this week. Stone is dead at the moment. Bo Allen, we hope, is coming back. And then you got Trainer as well. So you've got avenues of cash generation there. Some people might not have that cash generation. There were people that were playing AFL SuperCoach last week with no green ticks on the bench. So for those players, I would strongly suggest you look at cash gen and taking a hit this week and potentially going 1 up, 1 down in order to just generate some cash. So then in 2 or 3 weeks' time, you've got some money to play with to bring in some more Primos instead of just being stuck with what you've got, basically.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, and I went, my trade last week, my rookie trade, to give people a bit of an idea of where my head's at with this stuff. And my ranking's taken a hit over the last 2 weeks, but I've been really careful with my cash gen. My trade was Hall to Simpson because I wanted to make sure I got a dead rookie out of there and one that I thought would be viable back in there. So I even didn't go, for example, Trainer, or I should have went Bice. Bice cost me some cash, but I thought Bice on field might have been better option. So I went Hall. And so that's the way I think. It's not the right way. It's not the only way, but I think it's certainly something I hope pays off for me as we move into the next little period, which is really, really tricky. Do you want me to show you the other?
We'll see the rest of your forward line first. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Let's go down here.
So, yeah, Cooper Simpson, Cleary, and James Leake, who you could potentially trade in this week. So
yeah, that might not be there. He might not be this week.
Show the people at home, mate, your other trade scenario that you're looking at.
So the other one that I'm thinking of will be McRae out, and it will still be Hewitt out. So Hewitt's going for me either way because I need his cash to get Sinclair. I'm still bringing Sinclair in no matter which way I go. But in this option, I'm actually going to do. Where's our Brisbane man? Let's find him.
Oh, this is spicy. You're going early.
Going early on Kitty. And let me just complete that trade. And this is why I'm thinking this one. So in my head, this is my rationale for this. I went early on Simpson last week, and I know most people can still go to him this week. But if they go to Simpson, they can't go any other cash generators this week. What I'm thinking I might do is if I move Sinclair up to, let's say, it doesn't matter, whoever. What was it? I optimized it, I think, to make this work. So Trainer as the emergency Friday night, Kako the emergency Friday night, right? And so it leaves my rookies as Bice, who's going to maybe leak a little bit of cash, but just leave him there. Melbourne aren't a bad matchup. Melbourne aren't bad. Coleman is a risk because I hope they don't sub him or something, but let's see what happens. Now, Lindsay and Ashcroft, and one of these, and my preference would probably be Simpson over Cleary if I went that way. Here's where it gets really flexible, and some people say, look at all the planning that you do. This is where I'm really weird. So I'm only doing this while I look at trainer's score. If trainer scores a really good score, I'm not bringing Coleman in. I'm then trading Coleman out.
So this is what you're talking about how this trade is not going to happen until you see Friday night's game.
It's dependent on trainer. If I can field trainer, then I'm not bringing Coleman in early because I'm going to bring Stone up here, assuming Stone's out. I'm going to take trainer's score, and then I'm going to take the other cash gen option that not many can take this week, and I'm going to take a punt on Dante. So I'm either if trainer sucks, I'm going Kitty. If trainer has a score that I can field, I'm going Dante because I want the cash gen that others can't have. So that's what I'm hoping that my forward planning last week allows me. It doesn't make much difference to my rookies on field. It doesn't make much difference. I'm still bringing Sinclair. It doesn't make much difference to anything else. But it just is one of those strategic things that I am trying to get a bit of an advantage based on my current situation and what it looks like. But it's dependent on trainer's score on Friday.
Bit of pork sword energy going on there, Hurls. I like it.
We'll see. It might work, it might not, but it probably gives the people at home a bit of an insight of how crazy my mind works with SuperCoach and that kind of stuff. But that's the kind of thinking I'm doing.
Yeah, that's good though, because it gives people at home, there's no right or wrong way to trade in SuperCoach.
Nah.
But there is alternative ways to trade. So you might get other content creators, and everyone's good in their own right. So you can debate your trade-ins and your trade-outs till the cows come home, really. But for you to get unique picks and have, multiple ways of looking at who to bring in, I think is pretty important because, one, you got to like the player. Like, I don't like Pickles, so he's sort of out for me unless he loses 100K and then he'll come in as an F7. But it's your team and it's got to fit within your structure. And ultimately, you at home, you're the one that owns that team. So we can give you 50 trade scenarios, but you've got to do what's right for your team, cash gen, and in order to get to 23 Primos. Or 22 Primos because 22 counts, but we would like 23, 24, 25 by the time we run out of trades.
Spot on. The other, just to close that loop, the other thing that if this ends up being the scenario, then I can categorically tell you that I know my trade out next week is Caleb Daniel because I don't want five players, including Dante, on the round 12 bye. So my trade out next week will be Caleb Daniel to Coleman. I know that.
You're doing a good job, mate. If the man Kerry O'Keefe himself is getting some genuine penile movement with this
there we go.
Trade talk.
Glad I could help, Skull.
How good's that? Do you just want to go through your team?
Yeah, let's do it. So
then I'll do
this
questions.
Backline will be Whitfield, Zorko, Sinclair, Roberts, Bice, and then trainer. So forget Stone for a second. Midfield, Brayshaw, Merritt, Neal, Dacos, Sheasel, Petrarca, Warner, and Lindsay. Again, I could maybe do a bit of a loop there if Kako finally has a spike game that we've all been waiting 10 weeks for. The big Maxi and X in the ruck, that's not changing unless it's a big injury in the year somewhere. Then forward line in this scenario would be Smith, Rankin, Kennedy, Marich, Daniel, Levi, and then Dante Vicentini in the ruck. Simpson and Cleary on the bench for that forward line spot.
Beautiful. There we have it. There's Hurls' team. We're going to get stuck into some questions, ladies and gentlemen.
It's question time. Let's answer your questions for the week ahead.
All right, let's have a look, mate. Thoughts on Archer Reid, Pickles, Hayden Cleary to Vicentini, the suitcase, and Cooper Simpson?
I like it. Archer Reid to Vicentini is pretty much sideways, and Vicentini goes up in cash, and Reid's cooked. Pickles is injured, so you go into a Premo in the suitcase, and Cleary to Simpson unlocks some cash and gives you the best rookie for the week. Love it.
Work, Jimmy. Skull, Hurls sporting some standard squeeze merch undies instead of the cap.
Is that on my head? I don't know.
I'll tell you what, Jonas, you've got some competition coming. Stuart Fraser, why is Simpson a popular trade in when there's no guarantee he will play? I think he will play, mate.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he's no difference to me because I picked him early, so I'll be stuffed if he doesn't play, but don't trade him in if he's not in the team. That's for sure.
Zach Ferret, 0 tackles from 6 tackle attempts. Prior 1 tackle from 5 attempts. It's contagious. They caught it off Sardis.
Can I tell you, Jonas? I have it on very good authority from the track watchers at the Bombers today. The whole session was about tackling, broken tackles. That was the whole session.
And mouth guards in.
Yeah.
We saw what happened with Freo the week before with the mouth guards in treatment.
It was pretty poor. Even the guys who played okay just missed tackles. It was poor.
Awesome job on the commentary from the Tigers and Braves game on the weekend. Beautiful, mate. Myself, or rookie coach, and I commentated on KO and Fox Sports, the Melbourne Tigers versus Bendigo Braves. And this week, for those that are listening at home, Deadly is making his TV commentary debut on KO Freebies. Myself and Deadly are commentating the Diamond Valley Eagles versus the NBL 1 Bendigo Braves on Saturday night.
Have you made sure he's not calling out Keezus or Campbell Chesser?
I'll tell you what, if he does, he'll be the first commentator to ever get a right hook. Let me tell you. James P. ranked bang on 10K, down from around 3 or 4K most of the year, and can't work out if I'm too far back to have any chance to win it. I think my bench hygiene is better than 1 rank, but team value way behind him. Yeah.
Similar. Like I went from 1.7 to now 7K, so I'm only 3K ahead of you, James. Are we too far back to win it? Look, chances of winning it are pretty slim anyway, but I wouldn't write anyone off that's still looking okay from a cash gen point of view from getting back into that top 1%. My target every year is to try to get into the top 1%. Like if I win 1 year, bloody hell, you'll hear me from WA, right? It'd be awesome. But that's a bit of a pipe dream. I think 1% is the aim, and I don't think that we're out of the realms for that conversation, James, at all.
Jonas, Harley Reid scored 99 and 83 the last 2 games. Garbage before that, still giving away lots of free kicks. 13-4, 29 against, lost 107K. Could he go up over 100K? My own personal opinion is that probably not, because they're going to be playing Adelaide this week. It is my belief that they are going to get absolutely annihilated. He's going to get the shits on. He's going to give away 5 free kicks, and you'll end up with 60s again out of him.
I think if you're going to go to, I like the thought process that must have gone into that idea to find someone who's dropped a bit that can make some cash, because cash gen is really tricky. But I think what you also need to think about with these kind of cash gen ones is what's their fixture, and like try to find the month of the year for whichever team it is where they've got, and it's hard because he can't play against West Coast because he plays for them. But if you've got a team playing, West Coast, Richmond, North in a 5-week stretch where someone might make 100, I think that's the better play than a Harley Reid maybe.
Yeah. Actually just got a message from our Western Bulldogs man, Sam Darcy, back running at training today.
I saw 4 to 7 as the prognosis now, which is bloody awesome to hear. That's a lot quicker than anticipated.
And would you expect anything else out of this boy? Deadly. Carlton dry. More like Carlton lost. Oh, what a man. McCrae to Anderson. I need to go different to others above me. Thoughts? Love it. I would.
Love Anderson. He's one of my favourite midfield pod picks. I think you've got a relatively safe floor this year with Anderson, and we know those spike games. So I love that, Frankie.
Luke Cleary went well against the Essendon. Yeah, everyone fucking played well against us. Baz's Baggers. G'day, lads. Loving the content. That's awesome, mate. I love that Carlton people like us.
I was going to say, I'm glad that you're still watching, even though we bag shit net and Carl Scum and all that kind of stuff. I'm glad you're still getting a bit of info out of us, and you're enjoying it. It's all in good fun.
Yeah, it is all in good fun. We don't really hate them, except for Vossi.
We do.
Froggy, Sheasel preemptive out, about to lose coin. No.
I can understand it. I don't think we've got the luxury with all these injuries. If you had no injuries to speak of, and you're thinking she's all out because he's going to stay in that role, I get it. So I'm not saying it's terrible, but I think we've got other priorities, surely.
For sure. James D'Alberto. G'day, Jimmy. Thoughts on going Kako, McRae, and Pickles to Bolton, Whitfield, and Simpson leaves me heaps in the bank to get Dacos and Kitty next week in 2 trades. I'd rate it.
We didn't talk about this guy, and he's been a really hot topic this week, but Shai Bolton at 430K, he's a really, really good pick if you want some value. Now, one thing I will say, James, is just ask yourself the question, what do you want from Bolton? And if you're comfortable with a roller coaster, because he got a 5 3 weeks ago, let's not forget, so he can have a real stinker. As long as you're comfortable with that, I think it's a good play, especially now that we're getting to not many rookies on the field. Bolton could be a really good pick for that price.
What do you think about him? Do you think he did in 2023? He went over 153 times, but then he also had games where he went 50, 56, 60, 65, 54. So while there's huge scores, there's also a real flaw that Primos don't have.
There is, but I think we've got to take into account he checked out a bit last year. The year before, he averaged 93 the year before.
Yeah, that's the year I'm talking about. Last year, he didn't do anything.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think, he's still going to have your 50s every now and then. You hope he doesn't have any 5s, although with the flex, that drops out. And you just hope you get a few 150s out of him like you got last week. So I think if he was 500, I'd say do not go there. Don't bother. But 430, it's a bloody good cash saving.
Yep. In relation to Cooper Simpson, Chi says, I thought his stats weren't super great in the waffle, but glad he's doing well. Absolute lock this weekend. I think he was averaging, 23 touches in the waffle in a team that was getting smacked every week?
Not sure. But I haven't watched any of the waffle in the last couple of weeks, but I think West Coast and Peel were both struggling last night.
Pretty ordinary, yeah. So you can look into numbers, Cheese, and your Will Brodys and your Erasmuses were dominating, but yet they're still not getting a crack. So I think they're looking for position players more so than people that are going to win shit tons of the ball. So DJS78, our man, how are you, mate? Hurls, with the amount of planning you've done, surely you'll catch up those lost ranks during the buys. We're backing him in.
I hope so, mate. I do a lot of work on the buy planning. I mean, you can see what my buys look like. Round 12, I've only got, it might be 4, if depending on, because of the Dante trade, depends on what it'll be. Might be 4. If McRae goes, I'll only have 2 the week after. Then I've got, I think, 1 Premo the week after, 3, 4, and 6 or something like that. So I've planned them meticulously. If I don't catch up any during the bye weeks, it's not because I haven't put the effort in.
Absolutely. Hawksy, hey, mate. G'day, lads. Going to just take heaps of cash into next week to double downgrade. Still holding Flynn in flex. Well, he's doing his job for you.
Yeah, I don't mind that. And I think this is one of those questions every coach has to ask themselves. Do I carry 1 or 2 of these injured guys on the bench? It's 1 week of best 22. Now, whether that works or whether it backfires probably depends on which rookies you put on and whether they get a 70 or whether they get a 30. If you've got some rookies that can get a 70, I think holding a McRae makes sense. But if you think you're going to have to be taking 3 30s, then I'd probably say, is that going to really hurt too much? So it's just, it's all team dependent.
And his team name is Kako for Coleman. So I will not be trading Kako.
Yeah, I'm not trading Kako either. I had this conversation with a few people early in the week too. I think Kako from a break-even game is ready to go. His break-even's too high now, and he probably starts to lose a little bit of cash. But I'm not really worried because I don't want more dead rookies. So I'm comfortable he's got good job security. I'm comfortable letting him hover around that 200 grand mark and know that during the buys, he might be 1 week, I might need him. But then, I think he's going to go once the buys are done for sure for me. But if you want to keep him because it's your team name and that's what you want to do, Hawksy, go for it.
Froggy, I'd asked for a shout out for my brother being in the top 700, but it would go to his head, and he's chirpy enough.
We won't say anything then. Stuff him. Nah,
Yeah.
good on you. 700 bloody good. Keep going.
Joseph Miranda. Is Matt Rowell an option
He's
again?
cheap. He's cheap, but
I wouldn't.
No,
He plays well in Darwin. There's
Yeah.
three things you can rely on with Matt Rowell. He's going to play well in Darwin. He's going to start the year well, and then he's going to shit the bed the rest of the time.
He's the thing that you could think about. Now, I'm not picking him, so this is not advice to say go pick him. But if you are, let's use Anderson as the contrast because they play for the same team, and Anderson's about 100K more. So I would advise you, if you're going to pick a Premo from here, that they should be top 8 mid, and Anderson's the one I'd go to every day of the week. I wouldn't go to Rowell. But if you could go Rowell and that meant the next trade that you do is better and that you could comfortably sit with someone who's going to hover just below the M8, then maybe you will take that risk. I'm not saying it's a silly play. It's just not one I would want to make at this stage.
Yep. Hawksy again. Simpson stays in. Their backline has looked miles better since he came in. I agree, mate.
Agree. Yep.
Cheese. My only issue with trading McRae is the fact I'd have to go another forward, as I only have 5 Premo forwards. Not sure if it's worth ruining my plan of bringing in Tom Green.
I think that's a really good shout out, and I probably didn't articulate it very well with my team. I have 8 forwards, Cheese. So the reason that I can punt McRae really easily, I've got Petrarca and Chad Warner sitting in my midfield at the moment. So for me to punt McRae and even potentially bring him back when he loses cash down the track is an option. Whereas if you've only got 5 forwards, it makes it a bit harder because you're probably then relying on a Simpson or you're relying on a Cleary to be on field. Like I don't have to do that. So,
yeah. Ricky Edwards, torn between Premo and Simpson and Dante and banking cash.
Another great call.
Yeah, it depends how your team structure is and your buy rounds.
Yeah. And can you... Do you think, and this is the question I'd ask myself if that was my scenario, do you think that Dante and Simpson, I assume both on field, can get within 50 points of that Premo? Which if you think yes, and you can do 2, because you've got 3 trades next week, everyone gets 3 during the buys. If you can do 2 upgrades next week to make that 50 back up, I think it's a play. I think it's the underlying thing is you have to trust that both Simpson and Dante are making 100 to 150 minimum. Because if you don't think they're going to make that, if Dante is still a risk and he still has to score 80s and 90s for a month to get 130, 140K, if you think he can do that, that's a good play. If you think he's going to get dropped after the buy, then it's a shit play. So it's up to personal opinion.
Rookie coach, the boys. Hey, my man. What a week of carnage. I think it's time for Shay or Took. Took's a good shout. He's been incredibly consistent this year.
Could you get a bigger contrast of players? One that goes massive and gets a 5 the week after versus Took, who's like 100 a week. Like that's appetite there, rookie. Whichever one you need in your team. How many roller coasters have you got? And if you've got too many, go Took. If you haven't got many, go Shy.
Spot on. Hawksy, is Rowell an option?
Right? Is it Shay? Is it Shay or is it Shy? Shay.
Oh, it's probably Shay.
Anyway, Shay. Sorry. Shay.
Is Rowell an option if you plan for him to possibly be that flex player or in the flex at end of season? For me, I like having DPP players in my flex so you can move them around and play them as needed. I don't like the idea of having, and this all came about having Matt Flynn in there. Yes, he was all right. Yes, he scored well, but it really hampered me being able to move. I missed out on both Hewitt's 90s while he's sitting on the bench because I couldn't move him onto field and these sorts of things. So I think it's important that with your flex, it creates flexibility for your team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, this is the first year of flex, right? It's going to be really interesting when we get finished teams in round 17, which way people go. There are a lot of people who have got the 2 big rucks and Marshall in flex. There's a lot of people that have still got Flynn in flex. I might bring Dante into flex this week. So I'm still using it as a cash generating spot. But what do people do with it in their final teams? That's going to be really interesting. And I think I'm in agreement with you. I think one of two things. You either go the third ruck because they're the most prolific scorers, or you go a DPP bloke for some extra flexibility.
Kev, hey, mate. Flynn has reset his cash gen. He certainly has, mate. Hold on to him.
He has.
Jonas, Shy Guy Bolton, 430K. Is he a money maker or is he a keeper? Well, the way he's been scoring, mate, he could potentially be a keeper.
Yeah, both. I mean, he's the kind of guy that you would like in flex, right? He's got DPP, hasn't he? I think
DPP,
he's got
high ceiling.
High ceiling. If he gets a 5 1 week when you've got 23 Primos, he's not going to count. That's the kind of guy that could be a flex. So, and I think the beauty of that, Jonas, is we don't have to answer that question until round 20. So you can buy him now. You can make the money. If he turns shit, you get rid of him.
Let the good times roll, Jonas. And rookie coach for you, Hurls. Rookie's team is filled full of adrenaline-seeking roller coaster junkies. Hang on, can I say it in his voice? Hurls, my team is filled with adrenaline-seeking roller coaster junkies. Would have to be took.
Good job. Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. I think the other thing with that rookie is if you just want another one, maybe you just like the big roller coasters and you don't worry about safety. Go for it. Who knows?
Driz, hey mate. Callahan and Pickles to Simpson, and Callahan and Pickles to Simpson, and going early on Bont, getting Butters after the bye. So the thing with Bont is he only plays 1 week and then he's got a bye. So
and he's coming down in cash. I don't
he's got 189 break even.
Yeah.
So he could potentially save some more cash.
Yeah, I don't really
157 break even.
Yeah, I don't hate the fact because you had Pickles in round 12. I assume you're okay for round. I'm going to make that assumption that you're comfortable with a round 12 bye player. So don't mind it. My only thing is, and maybe I'm being a bit of a, as Abs would say, a bit of a greedy guts here. With a 157 break even, I'm hoping he gets a 120 and I can buy him in round 13 a bit cheaper. Maybe I'm being a bit delusional, or maybe you just say stuff it for the sake of 20 grand. Who cares? But that's probably up to you.
Yep. Boys, Deadly, a hold or a trade wouldn't even fucking pick him to begin with. He's in the Campbell Chesser section. Jeez. Can we trade Levi this week, Hurls? I don't think so.
I don't know.
It provides too much mid forward. He's scoring well.
In a week,
who do they play? Hawthorn at the G. Plenty of space for him to move up and down the wings. Yeah,
in a week where I think we've got plenty of cash to burn because of injuries, I wouldn't burn Levi. Like if we had no injuries and the only way you could make your upgrade was Levi, I'd say, okay, I get that. But I think you can make your sideways from your primo injured blokes, or you can make upgrades elsewhere. That's where I would lean. And Levi's round 16 buy, I think, is going to come in real handy.
100%. Deadly's going to load up on baked beans before the game with Horse. You know what, Jonas? If he loads up on baked beans, he's going to be doing the Kelly Underwood and he's going to be commentating from outside, not actually watching the game on a fucking screen, sitting by himself in the car. And I won't even let the windows down. So the oxygen's what he's got in the car. Unreal. And rookie coach to finish us off. Well done, Horse. Thanks, mate. I tried, but you've got a voice like no other. I'm playing so risky this year. I'd do it, hold Jack McRae and Pickles and be 2 Primos up by the end of the bye rounds. That's another way to think about this, isn't it?
Absolutely. Look, I think there is a world where I think this would be everyone's go-to option if this was round 12 coming up. If we were in best 18, I reckon everyone would hold. But because we're in best 22 for one more week, and then both of those players have buys in round 12 and one of them round 12, one round 13, people are logically going, so they're out for for 3, plus their buy, it becomes a bit longer. But because I've got, how many trades have I got left? Not bloody many. I'm burning through them like normal. I think after this week, I'm going to have 16 trades. I've still got 4 or 5 upgrades to do. I'm going to come out of the buys with maximum 4 trades. Maximum. That's best case scenario. So if you think you would rather come out of the trades with 6, hold them. I think that's a very viable play. It might take a little haircut for a couple of weeks because of the points, but it might pay off at the other end.
Yep. And last one to finish us off, mate. Hard to work out when the right time is to get Bont and Butters, or with Butters coming down so quick. I would suggest that Bont isn't going to come under 600K. Where Bont is, that's just going to where he's be all year, or where he's going to be all year, sorry. With Butters, he had that 50 last week. So there's a big chance that he could be in the 500Ks in a couple of weeks, mate.
I'm just trying to look. What is Butters' break?
So Butters is at 633K. He's got a break even of 206. If he scores 124 this week, he will be 595K next week with another monster break even.
Yeah. So I think...
Oh, he'll be on the bye next week, sorry.
Yeah, he's on the bye. I was thinking early on in my planning, I'm going to bring Bont in because I think he's going to get to 650 and I budgeted for that. And I'm going to bypass Butters. I'm not going to bother because I can't bring in another 650K bloke. I think now Butters is around 15 play, not around 13 play. So you let him play out the next few. Now he could buck the trend. He might get 170 and he doesn't come down as much as we all hoped. But if he goes 120, 118, 122, he's all of a sudden 580 in round 14. That's perfect. Go there then. Like, beautiful.
Well, and as Higo just said, Butters gets the Bedford tag after the bye too.
He does too. But that's perfect. And then Oliver tag after that. Like if Oliver's tagging.
Could be 350K.
Oh, and hang on, round 15 is Jordan as well. So maybe round 16 is the play for Butters. You're not going to bring him in for the Sydney game, are you? With a Jordan tag probably on his head. So maybe round 16's the week. If you can get him at 550 to 580 in that week, that might be the perfect week to do it.
For sure. Hey, Mr. Skitsfits, I'll bet the G for the Dreamtime game this week, Essendon versus Richmond. You've been a Richmond supporter. Come down. We'll have a beer, mate. Be nice to meet you. We're going to finish off, mate. Anything you'd like to add before we knock off for the night?
No, it's been fun. I think everyone out there is sort of scratching their heads this week. We've got the injury carnage. We've got rookie crisis. We've got everything going on. We've got buys coming up. So hopefully that, hour and 12-minute chat has helped some people think about some different options that they might be thinking about for their team. And I think the other thing to consider is, and we say this all the time, there is no right or wrong. Do what you think is right. It might work out and it might go pear-shaped like a couple of mine had, but you just make the calls and you go with it. Don't let it ruin your whole weekend if you stuff up a trade or two.
And one last jab at Carlscombe before we leave. Chris Davis says, is Jordan still tagging? Didn't last week. That's because they got no good players to tag.
Love it. Who are you going to tag at Carlton?
Yeah, that's right. I'll tag Michael Voss. That's about it on the chin. But anyway, that's going to do us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us tonight for Hurls' team. We're back tomorrow night for our live stream, our round 11 preview. It's the last round before the bye, so you're not going to want to miss that. But before I knock off, remember, it's okay not to be okay. And it's not weak to speak. If you're feeling down, reach out to a friend, a family member. There's Beyond Blue. There's Lifeline. There's all these agencies out there that if you're not comfortable talking to someone that you know and trust, be anonymous. Ring those helplines because ultimately, even if you message me or Hurls or call us, whatever, half an hour spent talking to you on the phone, half an hour spent texting you is a lot better than spending an hour at your funeral. So remember, it's not weak to speak, and it's okay to be okay. It's okay not to be okay. That's going to do us for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night. Cheers.